Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Hidden Gem podcast for Faith Worship Center. And I have with me a very distinguished first guest because I said last week that the Gales were going to join us, but they had family that came into town. So I got the privilege of asking Holy Spirit, well, who would you like me to interview? And I kept calling different ones and they were busy until I called Sim. And the interesting thing is, Sim, is that do you know who Dutch Sheets is?
Of course.
On Give Him 15 today, his the title of it, I wrote it down. This is only God can do this, because we didn't orchestrate this.
No, we did not.
But God did. And he in his Give Him 15 today, I wrote it down because I was just God is so good, is God's kiss for suffering humanity. And it has to do with intercession. This is the head intercessor, or has been for years.
11.
11 years. So you can't make this up.
Yesterday.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. So today he releases this word on his podcast of Give Him 15 about intercession. Is what is God's answer to suffering humanity. And this is the pro right here. And she did not want to do this. To her credit, this is a stretch for her, but that's how we know that God is in it too.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to share that the Torah, so I've just started getting into reading the Torah and studying the Torah, which is obviously, the first 5 books of the Bible, for those of you that didn't know. So in their reading, they have for this week, for all Jews all around the world, for their public reading. Also, another amazing thing for July 19th, today. And it's about what makes a family. That's what this whole podcast is about.
Amen.
The Faith Worship Center community.
Yes.
And this hero that I'm getting to sit down and meet for the first time. I mean, we've met briefly and I've heard so much about you. But the one thing that I find that's so beautiful about a lot of the people that I've talked to here at Faith Worship Center is that nobody wants to be in front of a camera. Nobody wants to be, an intercessor wants to be hidden. But that's the beauty, honestly, Sim, of who you are and what you have done for 11 years. You celebrated the 11th year yesterday. Is that what you just... Wow.
Well, the Godhead came in and anointed me to be head intercessor on July 17th. But I became head intercessor, officially announced to the church, on September 1st.
Wow. And how did you even start, first of all, let me just ask you a personal question of how long you've been walking with the Lord. What?
I've been walking with the Lord since 1976, March 1976.
Wow. How old were you when you gave your heart to the Lord?
Oh, wow. 28.
Wow. What were some of the circumstances that led you to Him?
I was pregnant for my second child, and I was very sick through the whole thing. And before I was saved, so I went to a card reader, and there was a death card there. So I got nervous because I was, and I went up to my attic one day. Now it was a rainy day, and I was hanging clothes, and I started thinking of something like I'm pregnant. I'm due in about 3 weeks, and I started thinking of something I shouldn't have been thinking about, and I heard this. I heard within myself something say, "You shouldn't be thinking those things," and I said, "So who cares? I'm no saint." And then someone literally said to me, out there, "But you could be." And I put the clothes down and I turned around and said, "Who said that?" And I went.
So you audibly heard?
I audibly heard that. You could be. Yeah. So I went around the attic looking to see who was hiding, and there was nobody there. but it's like I felt it was like a God thing that He wanted me to give me His heart, give my heart to Him.
Yeah.
Because I didn't hear about being born again. I didn't know anything
Were
about
you
that
raised
stuff.
in a Christian home?
I was a Catholic,
Okay.
and so we didn't do Bible. We just but I always loved the Lord. But so.
But you had never heard of anybody say that. Okay.
No.
Wow.
And
And
so,
you're 28 years old.
28 years old.
You're pregnant with your first child. Second child.
Yeah. And so I felt like He wanted me, because I was sick all the time and I was concerned about the baby and everything.
Sure.
And so I felt like He wanted me to give Him the baby and give Him myself and trust Him. And I can't say yes to something unless I mean it. I couldn't mean it. I couldn't seriously mean it.
Wow.
So I said, I can't right now. And then, but then there was a time, like within a week, I could. Like this moment came and I thought, I can do that now. I can trust Him with the baby with me. So I said, okay, I can trust you.
But you had gone to a card reader and you got the card death. So you were familiar with the supernatural realm,
I was looking
spirit.
for it.
You were looking for it. Did you frequent this individual multiple times?
No, I just went to the beach.
Oh,
But
okay.
I've saw several of them.
Okay. Interesting. So you were already tapping into the supernatural realm. It obviously was the wrong one.
Yeah.
But you still were
It's the wrong
one. In your search, though, you hear this voice. And so when you hear this voice, what did you, like, did you think it was God? Did you think, what were you, do you remember?
Originally, I thought it was somebody hiding in the attic. But when I couldn't find anybody, I thought, oh, maybe this is God. But I couldn't do it, like I said, till that moment when I did. And then 2 weeks later, my son was born, and he was rushed to Boston because he had a heart problem. And he was in the hospital for a month. And then they kept you in the hospital if you give birth back then.
Right.
And for a longer time. So by the time I got to Boston to see him, I was able to hold him. He was in intensive care. He had had surgery, and I had to just put my hand out, and they took all these wires and put all these wires around me so I could get to the baby, to hold my baby, kind of thing. And
so at this point, then, you're in the hospital with him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had this encounter 2 weeks prior to him?
About 2 weeks before. He was born April 19th, and this was the end of March that happened.
Okay, but
so about
then
3 weeks.
2 weeks later, but you hadn't committed.
Yeah, I committed before he was born. Yes.
Okay, so in that 2 week period, you did commit.
Yes.
What changed your mind? Because initially you said you couldn't.
I could. Like one day I thought, I can do it and say it, So I said, okay, just like that. I said, okay, I can do it today. I'll give you my baby. I give you myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so no one was there to lead you to Jesus. No one told you the prayer. You weren't taught the Bible, but you were raised in a Catholic
Christian home.
Christian
home.
So there was the belief there. What about your husband? Was he a believer?
No, he was not a believer at the time, and it was not a believer for a while.
Okay, so what was his response to you when you
I don't think I told him.
Okay. But you knew inside that you had surrendered.
Yeah.
But nobody led you there but him.
No, and then so when my son came back home from the hospital, I mean, the Lord just met me over and over again.
Jesus.
And just my relationship with the Lord is where it is today because of that relationship, because he showed up every time. It's like we had it was the day he came home from the hospital. He was a month old, and my daughter was 5 years old. And we had brought him up and put him in the crib, and I called my mother to let her know that we got back from the hospital. And when I turn around, my daughter's holding the baby in her arms,
At 5 years old?
At 5 years old, the baby just went through this crucial, all kinds of stuff, heart problem stuff. And she somehow went in the crib and picked him up and brought him out and carried him out because he was crying. I said, "What are you doing?" She said he was crying. So,
wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
so we put him back in the crib. And I don't know when this happened, but it was right soon after he got out of the hospital. I was standing by the crib and I was looking at him. He was sleeping. And I was wondering whether he was going to live or die. And I heard steps come to the doorway. And then I heard the steps come over to me, put his arm around me and hug me. And I turned around because I thought it was my husband, but there was nobody there.
Wait. You heard steps coming to the room. You heard him coming up to you. You felt him. Had anyone told you anything at this point now? 2 weeks, you had this encounter. You heard this audible voice. What was happening? Or you just instinctively knew that it was
I loved
God?
the Lord all my life, so I would talk to him and stuff. I just didn't know you're supposed to be born again. It's just,
You didn't go to church and somebody tell you have to say the prayer. You have to say it like this and then you're born again. You encountered him face to face.
I don't know, but it was like arm to arm.
Arm to arm. Wow.
And it felt like he said, "It's going to be okay. Whatever is going to happen, I'll be right here with you." I knew that's what he was saying to me.
What I find fascinating about that, Sim, is the fact that I grew up being taught in the church because I was very young, but I was taught that if you're seeking like tarot cards or you've played with a Ouija board or you're caught up in the occult, you have to be delivered from that before you can hear the voice of God. That's just the way I was taught. And so I'm fascinated that you were seeking the spiritual realm, which obviously is the wrong one because there's only two. There's
the wrong one. It's definitely the wrong one.
But you heard his voice audibly. So that just kind of dispels what I was taught, which is very interesting. But that we'll get on, maybe not even get on that topic right now. But I find it fascinating that you actually experienced that in a most critical time, that your son, you were pregnant, you're young, but you were never taught this. You walked in this because of your love for God. Even if you weren't taught about Jesus, you were still taught Christian principles, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Forgive me, I don't know a lot about the Catholic faith. That's another whole story I don't want to get into because I've been taught wrong. But I will say, to hear your story and to know that you were raised in a home that took you to probably Mass, Sunday Mass, regularly.
No, at the Catholic school and at the nuns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a lot of talking about God.
Okay. Okay. But you had an experience. Wow, that's just incredible. So then your husband didn't believe for a while, but now you have your son and your daughter. And do you take them then to Catholic church? Do you what
No, because he was really sick and we couldn't take him out. He would catch everything. He was very sickly. For a year, I would have to feed him and then hold him because either I had to bring him to the kitchen floor to throw up, or I could get him some throw up on me because it would be easier to clean than to go on a carpet. So he was 9 pounds 4 ounces when he was born, and when he was a year old, he was 12 pounds.
Oh,
but it was just a matter of I had to learn how to take care of him. It was a day and night thing. My husband could not handle it emotionally, and so he wasn't there at all. It was me that had it. So the Lord was with me through the whole thing. When I had to go to Boston, when I had to take care of him when he was in the hospital or whatever, it was the Lord was there, and he made himself known. He was there with me.
Jesus, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What an incredible experience.
It was beautiful, really.
Well, to have even him put his arm around you and say it's going to be okay, that must have been like, I mean, obviously you're talking about it now as if it was yesterday.
Yeah, I'm there now.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so for a year, you had to walk through this again with your encounter with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I have so many questions now. It's just beginning. The questions are just beginning. But I totally want to give you an opportunity to share how you came across Faith Worship Center, and how did that unfold?
Well, I was attending a church for 28 years, and I was going online and I heard about John Paul Jackson.
Oh yeah.
And so I was taking his course.
Okay.
And so like I could take the first course up with a book, but then the second one I had to go on the prophetic. So I went to the Boston church, the Bridge Church in Boston,
Okay.
where it wasn't him, but it was the pastor that's there. I don't know if he's there now or whatever. I don't remember his name even, but I went there for 3 days. And I found out that I flowed in the prophetic. I got a word that I was going to be prophetic, but you know what I mean? It was like surprising to me. And then,
after you've had this encounter with your son and you're surprised?
Yeah.
Wow.
So then I stayed for the Sunday service, and then I talked to the pastor and I said, you know, if this wasn't so far away, I would be coming here on Sunday. He said, well, you should think about Faith Worship Center. We're sister churches. We think alike, and it's closer to your home. And so I had that in the back of my head. And then someone told me I was on the intercession team for Patricia King.
Yeah.
And we had a partner, and my partner was like, I don't know, from another state or something. I don't remember what it was now. And she was saying, you know, you need to leave that church. You need to, you know, to grow. So like, you should think about going to someplace else. But I didn't, because they were my family. I loved them, and I didn't really want to leave them. And then so in my prayer time one morning, I was praying, and the Lord said to me, you didn't do what I asked you to do. And I said, what was that? What did you ask me to do? He said, I asked you to leave this church and to go someplace else. I said, well, let me take care of that today. So I did, and it was heart-wrenching, really. And but he didn't tell me where to go. But then I remembered this, so I came here. And it was difficult, truthfully, the transition, because I was a LNA, and I worked every other weekend. And it was an hour's drive to come.
Wow.
So like it was like I couldn't really connect with anybody, so I would leave crying every Sunday because I just felt alone. You know, I left the family that was really close tied, and to all these new people I didn't know, and I didn't know how to connect with anything. So
I'm gonna stop you right there. Does that sound familiar to anyone that's listening? Sometimes you go to a new environment and it's hard to connect. How long did you go here? You kept coming, driving an hour. From a family that you had just left for 28 years. Now you're driving an hour and you come. How long is it before someone actually connects with you?
Well, what happened was that they announced this weekend thing for women. I thought it was a women's group thing, and I thought I would get connected with the women. But what I found out was it was a Sozo convention with Bethel, and they were talking about Sozo.
You were set up.
I was set up. So I happened to be standing next to the person who was leading Sozo around here, but I didn't know. And I looked at her and I said, they were doing a deliverance. They were doing a fake Sozo, small Sozo that turned out to be this major deliverance.
Oh.
And I turned to her and I said, I thought this was a women's group. I said, I never would have come here if I knew what it was.
You think maybe Papa God knew that about you?
And she knew I would be on the team at that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was assistant regional director for a little while.
Wow.
Of Sozo. With,
Okay.
Yeah, with their kind of thing.
Okay.
For about 3 years or something like that.
Wow. And so that was your first introduction to Faith Worship Center.
Yeah, and that helped me connect with people.
A connection. Yeah.
When I got into a group and we had meetings and we got to know each other, that's how the connection started.
How long had you been going when that happened, when that Sozo weekend happened? Can you remember?
No, I would say maybe a couple years.
A couple years, we're not
only,
talking weeks.
I could only come twice a month.
That's right, because you were working.
Because I was working on weekends.
And you're an hour away. That's something I have noticed about Faith Worship Center, is that a lot of people travel an hour, 2 hours. I spoke with one young lady a couple weeks ago, and she said, yeah, I'm from Connecticut. If you're watching, that's amazing, because I'm like from Redding, California, and I'm like, it's 10 minutes to get to church, or it's 5 minutes to get anywhere. You come here, and you're like, you're traveling a while. So for 2 years, you would come when you could. So it was, you said twice
a month, every other Sunday.
Every other Sunday. And you didn't connect with anyone. Now, do you, sorry for belaboring this point, but I think it's really critical in the faith worship community for people, which I do love, when they're finished with worship and then, they say, talk amongst yourselves. I think that's really unique, because I don't think larger churches can do that, but smaller ones can. Did they at that point do something like that, or was that not, do you remember if that was even offered?
I don't really remember.
Okay.
But I was very shy, so I don't know that I really would. I did make a vow, though, at that point, and I thought, if I ever am anyone in this community, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go say hello to as many people as I can.
And so do you do that?
Yes. And we were at a convention, and there was this one man that was sitting by himself the whole time. So I went over to say hello to him, and I don't know if he thinks I was hitting on him or something. I don't know. But it was like, so he was kind of like fart a little bit,
Yeah.
And so then he came up to me, he said, "Can I ask you something?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "Why did you come over and say hello to me?" And I said, "You want the truth?" And he said, "Yes." And so I just told him that. I said, "I made a vow, and that I saw you alone, and I wanted to make sure you knew that you were seen and that you were welcomed." He said, "Oh, okay." Then he started talking to me.
Wow, that's amazing. And so how long, so 2 years, you finally connected, now you're involved with the Sozo ministry here. Then how long was it before you began to see a change even in you as far as this community? Like, you felt a part of?
Yeah, I did feel a part once I was in the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once you were on a team. So one of the things I loved about connecting with Sim over the phone is she said, "I really don't want to do this." And I said, "You're the perfect one that I want this to happen with then." And so I just thank you so much for your yes and this community. I've heard so many things about Sim, but I finally get to sit down and talk with you, and I can see why everyone is just drawn to you, because you may feel like, in fact, she said, "I have nothing to say. I don't remember the exact words, but it's like, I'm not in leadership. I'm an intercessor," which is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, that you make such an impact, because you're not setting out to make a name for yourself. You're really genuinely loving on people. And I think for people that are looking for family, and what Daryl and Lynn have cultivated here is so unique, and it's not found very often in the New England area. It feels like people are looking for churches, but really what they're looking for is connection. They want to have their people.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who, in like yourself, that's looking, maybe they're looking online and they come across this video? What would you tell them as they're quiet, they're looking for a place, but they don't feel like they would fit in? What would you encourage them to do when they come into maybe Faith Worship Center?
For me, I think it's important that we are where God wants us to be. And so I feel like if they come and visit and they feel at home, they agree with what they're being said, and it might not be that they feel loved yet, but I'm telling you, I've been here now since '08, and these are loving, faithful people. New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New England people, because of, I don't know, maybe because we have winter and stuff and we're inside all the time, it's kind of harder to connect. But once we connect, it's lifetime. And so it's worth a try,
It's beautiful. Beautiful. It's worth a try. I love what she's saying, because sometimes it's so scary coming into,
it is.
Especially if you're quiet or you're reserved and you just are unfamiliar. Then I just want to recommend exactly what Sim was saying. Look around. It may be you, or it may be, maybe you're a part of the Faith Worship Center and have been for a while, and you get caught up with your friends circle. Maybe on Sunday it would be a good idea to just look around and see if there's anybody sitting by themselves. And it's unfortunate that you went 2 years, but at the same time, God was building something in you to make that vow, to actually do. And I've heard about Sim. I've been coming here off and on because I live in 2 different places for a number of years, and I've always heard about how powerful and precious Sim is. Yeah. And my daughter would even say, well, you should go talk to Sim. And I'm like, which one is Sim again? So the beauty of your name actually precedes who you are. And that's the kingdom. That's family. And, wow, powerful. So now, eventually your husband came to the Lord.
My husband didn't come to the Lord till he had a massive heart attack.
Okay. So how long had you been walking with Jesus until he came into the picture with you?
I don't know.
A long time?
Yeah, it was a long time. And then he'd always come to all the parties and stuff, but he would never come to church. But when he had a heart attack and he was in intensive care, our pastor had gone to visit him, and he accepted the Lord then.
So Daryl went and visited.
No, this was the other church.
Okay, yeah.
Pastor Steve went.
So then he started coming.
He started going to church. Okay, yeah, okay. And he was on fire for Jesus. We even went on. He preached under the tent in Jamaica. Wow. And we had some friends from Jamaica. They came and lived with us for 6 months, but it was more than that. They'd come and go, wow. They had their room. And so he was really close to them, and we went to Jamaica, and, he got to preach. They asked me, and I said no. But
that doesn't surprise me.
I did go around the tent and pray, and they were all laughing at me, but now they all did it afterwards. All the girls did it afterwards after I left.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then he went away from the Lord, and so he was a come and go kind of guy for a long time.
Yeah. Now is he still?
He's passed away 4 years ago this month.
Oh, I'm so sorry. 4 years ago this month.
Mm-hmm.
I love what Sim said, that he would come with her to the gatherings, which again, I believe that the Lord is doing something powerful in the church within even the Faith Worship Center. I love their pizza Sundays.
Yes.
But he wouldn't go to a church service. So I want to close this time that we have. It's already been, it looks like close to 30 minutes, which I cannot believe. I kept looking at the time going, are you kidding me? It's been that long. Feels like we just got started. So we're going to do this again with Sim, let me tell you. This is a hidden gem. Sim is a hidden gem. And thank you so much. But I love what she said that about her husband who wasn't walking with the Lord, but he would come to the gatherings. That's what everyone is looking for, connection. And I so appreciate and value what Daryl and Lynn have for 36 years now been establishing family at Faith Worship Center. So thank you for tuning in. I know this is going to be probably a 30-minute podcast each week, but you can see that there are some amazing people that are a part of this community that we're all blessed to have you, Sim. And thank you for sharing the short little piece, because there's going to be more that you're going to share. You might not get up in front of an audience on a stage, but right now you are, and you're touching someone. Would you mind just praying real quick? Let's close us out as you lead us out in prayer.
So, Lord, I just thank you that we might be a group listening to something right now, but God sees us as an individual, and He knows our hearts, and He knows the situations we are in now, and it is important to Him. And so, Lord, I just bless those people, and I ask, Lord, that they would meet you even in a greater way of your love and your peace and your joy, and that they would know, Lord, that they are seen and heard, and that you know where they are and what is happening in their lives, and you know how to fix it. So I give you praise for it now in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Lord. Well, thank you for joining us, and tune in next week and see who we have coming up. And we will be having Sim back again. Bless you all. Bye.